Vice President of Sports and Recreation at Local Initiative Support Corporation. And we just want to thank everyone for joining the presentation. The purpose of this is to basically go through what the program is and what the threshold requirements are of the program, and then to answer any questions that you may have. And as Kwame noted, that because we have so many people joining us today, which is great, you will need to put your questions in the Q&A box, and we will answer as many as we can. Also know that we will send out the link to this presentation as well as the audio recording, so that you can replay it when you can, and if you have questions, then you of course reach out to us, and we'll be happy to answer them. So let's get started. What is the LISC Foot Locker Community Empowerment Program? Kwame is on changing this, moving the slides.
I have the description slide up. Can you see it, Beth?
I have the slide, but I don't see the second slide. It's not. I see the first slide.
Sorry, give me a second.
Okay, thank you. We're asking everyone for your patience. We are having technology issues. We are all over the country, and so we're trying to manage it as best we can. And we thank you for your patience. In the meantime, I'm just going to start talking. So basically, what is the LISC Foot Locker Community Empowerment Program? The LISC Foot Locker Community Foundation Community Empowerment Program is a partnership of the Foot Locker Foundation and the Local Initiative Support Corporation to launch a $3 million multi-city initiative to support community and youth empowerment in underserved communities, specifically where Foot Locker Inc.'s teams live, grow, and work. The program aims to bridge gaps in health, wealth, and opportunity, especially those driven by racial inequality. Over the next 2 years, the LISC Foot Locker Foundation Community Empowerment Program will provide grants ranging from $20,000 to $100,000, along with technical assistance to organizations that offer a range of services for young people, including health, wellness, education, life skills support, mentoring, and workforce development. The grants will build on Foot Locker and LISC's shared goals to inspire and empower youth, and will be focused on the 12 metropolitan areas where Foot Locker and LISC have a significant presence on the ground. Selection will prioritize nonprofit organizations serving youth of color, as well as those that are led by people of color. I want to talk a little bit about organizational eligibility criteria. Kwame, I still can't see the slides on my screen, so I'm just going off the hard copy that I have, and hopefully everyone else can see the slides.
Okay, yeah, I'm moving the slides. On my side, the slides are changing, but I think there's a, there's an issue on the other side.
Okay. Organizational eligibility criteria. To qualify for funding, organizations must, 1, be a community-based organization serving neighborhoods consisting primarily of low to moderate income families and individuals, have at least 1 full-time staff person. All volunteer organizations will not be considered. Be in existence for minimally 3 years. Have a proven track record in programming, youth programming, operations, or facilities management. Have a 501c3 tax-exempt status, and be located in one of the program target markets listed in the request for proposals. And the target markets that are identified for the program, for this round of the program, are Atlanta, Georgia, Baltimore, Maryland, Chicago, Illinois, Dallas, Texas, Detroit, Michigan, Houston, Texas, Los Angeles, California, Miami, Florida, New York City, New York, Oakland, California, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and San Francisco, California. With regard to selection criteria, we will prioritize organizations that have a demonstrated track record of success in one or more of the following pillars: community outreach and civic engagement, programs designed to engage youth and provide them with health and wellness opportunities. Goals may include increasing safety, play equity, equality, and empowerment of youth, including expanding economic opportunities for youth and community. Mentoring, programs designed to help youth with conflict resolution, life skills, academics, and community building. Goals may also include building positive, nonviolent, and constructive relationships, increasing the ability to accept and respect diversity of opinions and values in the community, and building trust. Career development and employability. Programs that develop skills and pathways to quality jobs. Goals may include increasing social and work skills, access to internships and trainings. And just as a note, play equity, when we talk about that, is the idea that all youth, regardless of race, gender, zip code, or income, should benefit from the transformational power of sports and play. Next is the feasibility of the project. The project budget must be based upon realistic cost and realistic planning. So we're really going to be looking heavily at project readiness. The sources of funding for the entire budget should be identified. Plans should consider the schedule of activities over the course of the next year. And a project timeline should be specified in the proposal. We're definitely going to be looking at the impact upon the neighborhood and support from the community, so that your proposal should demonstrate that the project is located in a low to moderate income community and should describe how the grant will benefit the community overall. Proposals should clearly detail, we want to know how many youth, how many adults, from the current program and programming activity or the facility, if you're going to apply for facility improvements, and project any anticipated increases in participation in your programming as a result of the Foot Locker grant. Match funding. While match funding is not required specifically, preference will be given to those proposals that can include match funding from a local organization such as city or local agency grants or in-kind contributions from local businesses in the community. And you should really specify the details on the funding sources and the amounts in your application. Program sustainability. So this is a big issue for us because we want to make sure that there are commitments of funding for program going forward and facility sustainability if you're applying for a grant for facility improvements for a minimum of 3 years. Also, we're going to be looking at the capacity of the organization and its partners to carry out the project, including ability to collaborate with Foot Locker on employee engagement opportunities. We want you to be able to demonstrate through your current management team and previous experience the ability to really manage a project of this nature. On the Foot Locker employee engagement, we have the expectation that grantees will work directly with Foot Locker, the local Foot Locker on the ground, to provide employee engagement opportunities for Foot Locker staff that align with the goals of the grant program. Opportunities should comply with both the organization's legal, professional, public health, and youth-related protocols. For example, interactions with youth may require a background check. Examples of employee engagement include, but not are limited to, the following: Foot Locker employee participation in non-technical tasks like mural painting, if there's you're painting a mural, community or facility cleanup, packing and facilitating giving away items like backpacks or school supplies. Foot Locker employees' collaborations on holiday-related initiatives such as food collection, donations, or other giveaways, coats, shoes, Christmas trees, gifts, or other resources. Foot Locker employees' facilitation of training sessions, mentoring, or career coaching. For example, Sneaker Career Day or a program series with speakers from across job functions like store district managers or sneaker designers, graphic artists, marketers, merchandisers, IT, finance, human resources. However, that works with Foot Locker and your organization and what you need and how you can engage Foot Locker employees in any of these areas. Foot Locker hosted events or in-store learning in Foot Locker community store spaces. With regard to application procedures, we ask that you submit your proposal in a PDF form to sportsandrec@lisc.org. Use your organizational name and Foot Locker program as the file name. And please understand that the use of Foot Locker, LEAD, or LISC logos are prohibited. Proposals are due July 30th, 2021. We expect that you would provide us with, first and foremost, a cover sheet, a one-page with your organization's name, address, email, phone number, contact person for the grant request, and a brief description of the project. A narrative, 3 typed pages at the max, and it should address the description of the organization, the mission, the history, and accomplishments, with the focus on the capacity to develop the project that you're proposing to us, a description of the neighborhood, boundaries of the catchment area, income levels, and ethnicity of the population served, condition of housing stock in main commercial areas, and existence and conditions of local parks and open spaces, including community facilities. A detailed description of the project, the location, current programming, plans for new programming and site use, progress on this plan, including the status on site control, zoning, environmental review, and physical improvements, if applicable. Project budget and match funding, if applicable. Timeline for your launch and or completion of the program. And community support for the project, and agreements with any partner organizations within the community that will be joining you in this project. The impact of the project and future sustainability. So planned or anticipated programming, including youth and adult programs, include plans for continued programming and safety, and how the project will fit into community plans for the entire neighborhood. And the big issue, well, not the big issue, but a main issue is Foot Locker employee engagement. Include any specific volunteer opportunities within your organization. And we just listed some examples, and you will see examples in the RFP if you've not already seen that. With regard to attachments, organizational attachments, we'd like a copy of your most recent IRS 501c3 determination letter, 2 most recent audited financial statements, preferably annual statements for 2019 and 2018. We realize 2020, because of COVID and everything, is kind of held up a little bit with that. Most recent IRS 990 form, preferably 2019. A current list of your organization's board of directors, including contact information. The current number of youth and community organizations that will be served by the program, and your IRS W-9 form. That's for your organization attachments. In terms of project attachments, your project budget for the programming or facility improvements, depending on what part of the grant you're applying for. Financial commitment letters and detailed plan from organizations responsible for the program sustainability. How is this going to continue to move forward? Any agreements and budgets for youth programming, letters of support and joint usage agreements with other community organizations that will be participating in your programming and in your project, and a list of your partner programs and youth organizations that will benefit from the project. in terms of contact, and I'm sure everyone is going to have questions, you can contact me, Beverly Smith. I'm the Vice President of LISC Sports and Recreation. The best way to contact me would be through email. Kwame Flaherty, who is our Senior Program Officer, Crystal Hunter, who is our Assistant Program Officer for LISC Sports and Rec, and Mark Conyers, who is our Senior Administrative Assistant. And with that, I think that we can begin to try and answer as many questions as we can.
Okay, Bev, so I'll read the questions to you as they come in.
Okay.
Just want to thank everyone for your patience with the slides, but they're working now, so that's great. Just like Beverly said, we will email the recording of this presentation along with the slides to everyone who's registered. The first question is, will this program fund scholarship programs for equity in higher education? This person runs a small foundation in LA that provides college scholarships to Latinx youth. So that's the question. Will they be eligible for funding from this program?
It is my understanding that we are not providing scholarships. We are looking for specific programming on the ground with youth, and we will not be providing scholarships from this program.
We have another one. Yeah. Can match funding also be other foundation private sector investments?
Yes. And it can also be in-kind funding. And when I say in-kind, if there is, an organization on the ground, just say that you apply to us for maybe a facilities improvement project where you are upgrading your facility for your youth programming, and you have maybe a contractor who's going to come in and donate some of their services and stuff, that can count as in-kind.
We have another
They would
question.
just need to.
Sorry. We have another question about match funding. Can match funding be the cash they currently have on hand?
Sure. Just to be clear that we are not saying that you absolutely have to have match funding, but I would say that those programs that are applying to this program that have funding that can sustain this project going forward, those will score higher.
Another question, will the program consider applications from an organization that serves individuals 18 to 24?
I believe in the RFP, we are looking from ages 6 to 24. So yes.
This is a pretty detailed question. This organization meets the criteria, but works nationally in different locations across the United States. We are based in New York City. The creative director is based in LA. Are we eligible as we work with underserved and marginalized youth communities nationally?
You would have to file and submit a proposal for each separate location. And again, the locations would have to be within the target markets listed in the RFP, in the 12 markets that are listed.
And we have another question. Can proposals be for existing programming or for only new programs?
No, it can be for existing programming.
We have a question. Where can applicants get the RFP? It is on the LISC.org website under Sports and Rec. And there's a Footlocker landing page you should see on the left side. But if you can't find the RFP, you can email any one of us and we'll send it to you. Just going through the questions, Bill. Will I be able to apply for a program that is associated with a school district, like a middle school in Oakland? I guess the broader question is if are schools or school districts eligible?
I would say that they would be eligible if they are partnering with local community organizations on the ground.
We have a
So
question.
if there are local youth organizations that would be able to use the space, then I would say yes, and you would have to demonstrate by a memorandum of understanding what your relationship is with the local community group on the ground.
This organization, we have a full-time staff person that is not a paid position. He's a retiree and will not take a salary. Would this satisfy the full-time staff person requirement?
Um, we would have to look at that in terms of what you're actually applying to us for, but we want to know that there's full-time paid staff that will be responsible for facilitating the program and the project, and particularly if it is a facility improvement grant that you're applying for. No, we will need to see that there is a full-time employee that will be overseeing the project.
There's a question about the application procedure. Are all the attachments and narratives supposed to be submitted in one PDF altogether, or can they be in multiple PDFs in one email?
It has to be in one email, but they can be multiple PDFs, so that if you put the narrative and the cover sheet and then you attach the other documents, that's fine, as long as it's in one email.
We have another question. Are nonprofit schools eligible?
As I said, they would have to demonstrate, where school districts are concerned, they would have to demonstrate that they are partnering with local community groups on the ground.
What is the proposed start of the funding period? So I'm interpreting that question to mean, when are we going to announce funding awards, who's awarded?
The deadline for proposals are July 30th. LISC will be making our recommendations to Foot Locker, I want to say by early September. So I'm thinking it will be mid to late September before we actually make announcements. And that's going to be depending on how many applications, and we thoroughly vet every proposal that we get. But I would say you can think between early to mid-September.
Another question, what kind of facility improvements would be acceptable for this grant program?
Well, for instance, if you have in your facility a computer room or a sensory room, or even a gym where kids are coming together, or an art room, anything that would need some sort of physical improvement so that it is safe for youth to come in indoors.
Do the matching grant funds have to be new as of the date of this RFP, or can it be recently awarded money that will be leveraged for this proposal?
If you're leveraging matching grant funds, you just have to demonstrate that you have funds or the commitment. But as I said before, we are not saying that you absolutely have to have matching funds, but what you have to do is show a realistic budget for the project that you are trying to do. And really the big issue for us is how you're going to sustain the project and the program going forward. So we're not saying that you absolutely have to have matching funds to match Foot Locker, but you do have to demonstrate that you have funds to sustain the program moving forward.
Is it permissible to submit for multiple programs from one organization as long as they meet the guidelines?
Well, when you say that, are you talking about different sites or just one program? Because then I think you should just submit one. If it's just one organization and one site, you should just send one proposal and include in that what you would be using the funds for
It
with
seems
regard to programming.
they mean that they're the one organization, but they have different types of programs. So can they submit proposals for the different programs? Like, I guess, for example, if one is an art program, if one's a financial literacy program from the one organization apply for each of those various programs they need.
Yeah, I would say
Right.
yes, we would certainly review and evaluate it.
Narrative format, what size font? Does it have to be single or double spaced?
We're not picky about that. We just want
Yeah.
it not more than 3 pages and minimally 12 font.
Is a private 501c3 eligible?
Is a private 501c3?
Yeah, that's what the question says.
Well, it has to be a nonprofit that yes.
Is this a 1-year or is it a multi-year grant?
This is the first round. This is our first launch, and so this is the first round, and we will be having another launch in 2022. We will have another round in 2022.
This is a question. Are there particular types of workforce development programs that this grant will be acceptable for?
I think that it really needs to focus on youth and the local community in terms of preparing the next generation of workers and career enhancement for young people. So I don't know that there's a specific type that we would be looking at. What specifically are you thinking of? I guess would be my question to the person asking this.
Not quite sure if I understand this question. It says, what are the organization budget level requirements for this Foot Locker funding opportunity? I'm not quite sure if that means, do they have to have a certain level of, finance on their end or
They
financial
just have to
viability?
demonstrate that they have the ability to sustain the program and that they are a viable organization. And we will review that when we look at the documents that we have requested, the 990s and all of that.
Would letters of support from Foot Locker personnel with a connection to the applicant organization be welcome?
Sure, absolutely. We want to know that you are connecting with Foot Locker in your area and that there are opportunities for Foot Locker to participate.
Can funding be used for new facilities or new furniture, fixtures, or equipment for our new after-school location?
Yes, but you would have to demonstrate the programming part of it as well.
Here's a question. Would development of a park or play space be considered part of play equity?
Not sure about the development of a park, but play space. And that would be, if you're talking about a development of a park, are you working with the local Parks and Rec? We would need to look at that and see what it is that you're proposing.
So it's under organizational attachments, it asks for a number of youth and community organizations served by the program. Does this refer to potential partner organizations? If so, must the project benefit other organizations?
It should be your current number of youth and organizations that you're already working with. And we really want to see how, as a result of this grant, your program is going to grow, and will it include other youth organizations? So what do you anticipate your future growth looking like?
Will a foundation support youth arts programming if it falls within the community outreach pillar?
Yes.
Can funds be used to provide incentives or supportive services like bus tickets, gas cards, work attire, utility assistance, emergency needs like food, hotel stay due to homelessness, etc.? Those are the things that we serve.
Okay, the program, when we talk about what um, the pillars of the program are, um, we want you to be, mindful that we are talking about engaging youth and providing health and wellness opportunities. And as we listed in the goals, it can include safety, play equity, equality, and empowerment of youth, and including expanding opportunity. And we're talking about social and work skills and access to internships and training and jobs and stuff. Um, we will not be giving out gas cards. I don't really feel like that is what we're aiming for with the program.
What sort of metrics will LISC consider most valuable? For example, the depth of the impact or the breadth of the impact?
Both. We want to look at not just how many are being served in the community, but what is the impact that your program is having?
What time of year will these funds be available to be used? We have several programs this summer. We are located in the Metro Detroit area serving youth for the 12th grade.
So as I said, we will probably be making announcements upon our final review and recommendation to Foot Locker, probably early to mid-September.
Are you still eligible to apply if you are a nonprofit recognized in the state of Michigan, but not a 501c3 and have a fiduciary to handle funds?
We would need to see documentation. Whatever your nonprofit status is, if it is not a 501c3 and you are deemed a nonprofit by the state, we would need to see that documentation. And if you can include that in your proposal, that would be helpful.
Can we apply to serve more than one market if our work spans several markets? I believe we said yes to that already.
But they have to be in the
Please.
markets that are
And
listed
the,
in the RFP.
yes, the target markets. We are a large New York City-based organization that serves families and youth in the target areas. Most programs are for youth. Do we have to be an only youth-based organization?
We are serving, the age range that we are serving are ages 6 through 24, as it states in the RFP. So if you are serving the community and that demographic in your community, then you will, we will certainly consider it. And I would just encourage everyone to really read thoroughly through the RFP. And as Kwame, said before, you can access it on our website, or if you can't access it, you can just send us an email and we'll send it to you. But the specifics of it are all listed in the RFP, and we clearly say that we really, the program seeks to support organizations that are serving youth from ages 6 to 24. So that is the age range that we are focused on.
Is Foot Locker willing to fund general operating support?
Well, when you talk about general operating support, if this is about paying people's salaries, I would say no, we are more interested in the programming for the youth.
How many organizations from each area will receive a grant?
We don't know. That's going to depend on the response we get to the RFP and our evaluation process, and how we, vet the groups. At this point, we really don't know.
Are demographics important? I guess,
When we talk,
including the demographics in the attachments, I guess.
yes. Yes, they are. Just be clear that we're looking to serve low to moderate income communities, primarily communities with youth of color or organizations that are led by people of color. Just understand that is what we're looking at. So yes, demographics are important.
If you receive a grant in 2021, would you have to reapply to receive another grant in 2022?
We will look at that. Yes, if you receive a grant in 2021, and depending on what we get in 2022 in terms of a response to the RFP that we release then, um, we will have to determine that, and that'll be a conversation with LISC and Foot Locker, going forward into 2022. Right now, we just want to get the information out and get, get this opportunity out to as many groups in the sites that we are targeting for this program as possible. And then we will see, and be able to determine what we will be able to do going forward.
Is there an anticipated average grant amount?
Not an average grant, but as we say in the RFP, grant amounts can range from 20,000 to 100,000. And you just really need to provide the program plan and the budget of how you will use the money that you're applying for from Foot Locker's, from the empowerment program.
This is a follow-up to a prior question. Says, what if the gas cards are used so that youth can get to and from work until their first payday?
Then you need to demonstrate exactly in the proposal what you would be using this for. What would gas cards or we would want that to be demonstrated exactly what you would be using it for and who is going to benefit from that.
There's a question about what type of reporting is necessary if they were to receive the grant.
There will be first and foremost, once if you're selected and notified that you've been selected for a grant, then we will issue grant agreements, and there will be precedents to disbursements. There will be, this is what we need in order for you to get your disbursement. And in your grant agreement will be the reporting requirements. And we're working that out now, but what we want to do is just get this out and get people to apply. And as I said, you will receive a grant agreement if you're selected. We would encourage you to read through your grant agreement with whoever on your team who will be overseeing the project. And if there are any questions regarding the grant agreement, then you can reach out to us and we can discuss that with the legal teams.
If we have recently hired a full-time program administrator and last year we were all volunteers, will we still be given credit for having a full-time employee?
Yes, you just have to demonstrate that you have a full-time employee that will oversee this.
Are salaries and stipends allowable expenses, assuming we have other expenses?
Salary and no, we're not. This is for programming, not to pay salary for your staff. This is for programming for the youth. And this is why we say, all volunteer organizations are not considered. You have to demonstrate that you have full-time staff.
Will you
at least one person.
Sorry. This question asks, will you potentially award funding less than what is requested? So I'm assuming if someone requests 60,000, would we make a decision and to say, no, we'll give you 40,000, not 60,000 or something along those lines?
We have to review that on a case-by-case basis, and it is really going to depend on how you say you're going to be using the funding and what the funding is going toward.
Is there a period of time that the funding must be used up for? I guess like a term that they must spend down the funds.
We will determine that once we see the proposals and what you're planning to do with the funding. But initially, I would say basically you would have 12 months to use it, but it could be shorter depending on what it is you're using the grant for.
Someone wants clarification. Can the budget for the program that they're requesting for include the costs or the staff time that are facilitating the youth engagement?
We want to see the majority of the funding from Foot Locker go to the youth engagement a component of your programming. And so that's why we're asking for your 990s and your taxes and everything, because if you are an organization that are looking to pay salaries, I'm not exactly sure that that's the way we envision the funds from Foot Locker being spent. We really want to know that those programs, and particularly those programs that already exist that do not have what they need to provide the programming to the youth, that they are being accommodated through the grant. But as I said, we will look at this on a case-by-case basis, and we will have this discussion with Foot Locker, but mainly we want this to go for programming for the youth and not necessarily for salaries. And then it will depend on, you know, what salaries you're talking about paying. And for what, as it relates to the programming that you're actually providing.
Okay, yeah. So as a follow-up on that, there's multiple questions about using the funds to hire staff to run the program.
I said you need to demonstrate what the programming is, and then we can look at that and consider it. So whatever you are planning to apply for in terms of the programming, we definitely need to see the programming piece of it first before we can consider anything else. We want to make sure at the end of the day that youth in the community are being serviced and that programming exists.
Do contractors count as full-time staff? Our organization has educational contractors during the school year, and we provide free programs year-round for youth, 3 through 24, mentoring, summer camps, sports, field trips. We have been sustainable for 11 years with no federal funds. I work year-round as a co-founder, but I do not pay myself a full-time salary. So I guess this is towards the organizational eligibility question. Would you count those contractors as full-time staff?
We can look at that.
I think we actually hit most all of the questions. Yeah, I don't see any new questions at the moment. Let's double check. Are intermediaries that serve networks of sports-based youth programs through grant making, capacity building, etc., eligible? So I guess if it's a pass-through from one organization to that will then distribute grants
Right. If
to
you're
other organizations.
if someone is working at or functioning, an organization is functioning as the fiscal conduit for the grant, that's fine, but we really will need to see a memorandum of understanding between you and that organization that is functioning as a fiduciary for this grant.
The question is this an invitation only RFP, or can we share it with other eligible organizations?
We'd like it to be invitational, and we are inviting groups to apply. But if you do know of other organizations that meet the qualification and the criteria, you can certainly forward it to them. But just know that those that have been invited to apply to the program and qualify and meet the threshold requirements will be considered first. And that is from the Foot Locker side and also from the LISC general offices.
Are there minimum or maximum levels of budgets to be eligible for funding?
No, you just have to demonstrate that you have the budget to run the program. And as I said, the main thing that we're going to be looking at is the sustainability of the program going forward. And so you will need to demonstrate that.
Can financials that have not been audited be considered, or can we have prior years audited after the fact? We have no real income or profit, so there was little activity that we didn't have to spend on an audit.
Okay, I would say submit what you have and we will look at it and we will review it.
Can funding cover the cost of furniture, laptops, or other equipment that youth use in the space?
Yes.
For facility improvements, can we use funds to do new construction of activity space dedicated to youth?
Yes.
If we serve multiple markets, should each market submit their own grant? I think we answered that. Yes.
Yes.
Can a university police department submit a proposal? We have a PAL officer in youth programming, including mentorship and life skills to youth in the community. This grant would support those efforts.
I think PAL centers can certainly apply. And we will look at that. We will consider that.
For the financial commitment letters and detailed plan from organizations responsible for program sustainability, is this required?
Yes. We want to know that whatever you are applying for funding for, that it's going to be sustainable minimally for 3 years. Or is this going to be a one-off project that you're trying to do, or is this something that you're really trying to establish that will benefit the community going forward? So that if you have other organizations that are willing to pitch in and help to support the project going forward, we would like to see evidence of that.
As far as selection criteria goes, do we have to apply under one of the 3 listed pillars, or can it be a combination?
You can do a combination and just make sure that you list specifically with each pillar what the amount of funding that you're asking for and what it will be related to in terms of implementation.
I believe we've hit all of the questions.
Is that it?
It is.
Okay, well, what I would say is, one, thank you everybody for your questions and for participating. As I said, you will get a, a, a copy of this presentation along with the recording, but please reach out to us for questions because every project is not the same. You will all have individual needs for your program. And so our team at Sports and Rec at LISC, we are here to help you to understand what the threshold requirements are. And we look forward to seeing your proposals and for the great work that you will do if selected for a grant and what you will do with Foot Locker on the ground. So thank you, everyone. We look forward to hearing from you and everyone just be safe. Thank you.